I am back for a big wrap-up because I have read a tons. Let's not wait any longer and start with the first one. First, We Were Four by Alexandra Sirari. Young adults start to follow four different young adult, I could say, 13 or 13 years old, when the story is being told through Easy. We have then three other friends, I should say best friends, Viv, Harry, and Graham. They are pretty much all the time together, talking, dreaming, reading about some adventures into one of the different backyards of each other. At school, they are together, they are considered as outsiders. Easy is telling the story, and right from the beginning, she said that first there were four, something happened, and now, at the time that she is telling the story, there are three. So you kind of follow everything behind what happened. A few words: revenge against society, forcing society and the adult to open their eyes and to try to break a wheel of a system that doesn't work anymore, and being ready to do anything, no matter the cost, to make people wake up. So 3.5 stars. First DNF, but actually it's the only one. That's always good to know. A Curious Beginning by Dina Rayborn. This is the first installment into the Veronica Speedwell mystery. It is happening in England, London. I think it's in the Victorian time. Veronica Speedwell, who's the main one, she is an orphan. She just lost her last aunt, and she is a big traveler. For her time, she is exploring the world and catching some very weird and specific butterflies to sell to some collectors, museums, and else. But there is gonna be a mystery surrounding her family. I was capable of reading 50 or 60 pages inside. I know it's not that much, but in 50 or 60 pages we are still don't aware of what is really going on, what is the mystery, because apparently her life is in danger and she has to hide with another stranger who has come to her help, and we still don't know. And everything is pretty quiet and slow, and yeah, the way that it's written, it's just something, like I said, that I wasn't able to put my grip on it. First, Michael Christian book that I'm not reading, that I read, Grave Descent, even if it's written under a different pen name at that time. This is part of a series that he wrote, more exotic, tropical one, but they are short, there are not many pages inside. And I gave it 3 stars. So in few short words: Caribbean, because I forgot the main island where it is happening, a fake shipwreck, a fake treasure to find, some very sick villains, and a man trying to save his life and his reputation. Yeah, this is Onyx, my painter. She's coming for once. It was good, but what really wasn't working for me was the fact that this is so short. It gives the feeling that this is a big scene, but part of a bigger development, and the bigger was missing. Young adult mystery thriller category with You Owe Me a Murder by Aileen Cook. This is a recent one, published one, and it was 3 stars. Canadian first, because we were leaving from Vancouver with the main character and everyone else, back to London for 2 weeks, sort of a summer exchange vacation for some students. A crazy outsider character who really thinks that the main character owe her a murder. So how the main character is gonna find her way not to kill an innocent one. This is everything I can tell you. Most likely this is a different view on the classic plot of I kill for you, you kill for me. Book to screen adaptation, A Simple Favor by Darcy Bell. I started to read the book first. Maybe it was a mistake. We are following a mother at home, and she has a blog for everyday life, for her cooking, the child, school. And she starts by asking for the help of others' mom in States or maybe outside in the world, because one of her, or maybe the only friend that she has, another mom, has been missing. This is the first part of the book, and the other one, it's gonna follow the mother who has been missing. It's definitely what you think it is. It's not. Craziness can be dangerous for anyone. It never really took off. I was able to watch the movie, which I would say was not a good idea, and actually it got me to learn a good lesson. That's a book from movie adaptations. In the future I will start by watching first. I would say there is a slight difference between the book to the movie. I enjoy more the book, but it didn't improve my 3 stars. I would say somehow one complete the other, but one doesn't improve the other. A 3.5 stars was The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. Young adult contemporary, I would say. Definitely something that you can read during the summer. It could be an eye-opener onto your future life or future job decision, that sometimes you are taking it or following a path that you think it yours, sometimes more because you are influenced by one or two or both of your parents. Some unexpected events can happen, can put you down temporarily, but actually could end up being the best thing that happened to you. And like I said, open your eyes onto different perspective that actually suits you better and make you more happy in life. I would say that you're gonna relate and enjoy yourself way more if you're really a young adult. Silent Victim by Caroline Mitchell. We are with the adult thriller, and I would say that for that one it was a tough one to give stars. If I want to be true to what I felt, I would say it's a 2.5. If I want to be not that cruel and mean, it's gonna be a generous 3. In few short words, I would say destroying a reputation, being the false victim, not being believed by anyone, being suspected at being a murderer, finding a way to know if it's about craziness or revenge. The story's been told throughout 3 different points of view. First is the false victim, the second is the real victim, and the third one, the husband. When we are following the false victim, you see you are in the head of an insane, crazy, disturbing person. It was extremely disturbing following that perspective, knowing the truth behind the whole thing. And like I said, the ending, the choice of I put an end into a series, a trilogy, which was Omega City with Infinity Base by Diana Peterford. In that one, we are following few hours or maybe few minutes after the end of the second one, so I can't really say a lot, but you can guess with the cover that we are going into space, which is true. Still following the four main kids with Gillian, Savannah, her friend, Eric, her brother, and Howard, her best friend as well. We have this time, during a few pages, the mother of the two. And it is extremely annoying to have her. Throughout the beginning, we are following these adventures that those kids are having, but they are on their own. And they are managing extremely well. So having an adult, you have the voice of the adult. Don't do that because you're a kid. You can listen, you can hear that because you're a kid. So it's just like, it is frustrating as much for the kids and they are in the situation as for us at reading in, and you just want to say, just shut up and let them be. As soon as we are getting rid of the mother, so don't worry, she's not dead, we have again the excitement of the story. The author had kind of missed her point with that third installment, because the whole point throughout the whole series was fighting against secrecy, against government and agencies who are doing stuff behind our back. And at the very ending, the ending keeps everything, well, there is just the elements of one thing that they weren't able to hide for the whole planet to discover, but everything else and the future where it's gonna go, it is kept again in secrecy. It's not very sad that they agree with keeping the secrecy, or that they disagree, but it feels like they understand why everyone has to keep the secrecy into this. And for me, it was a missing point because the kids were all the time against that. I would still read again the whole series in a heartbeat, and I will still recommend the series for everyone to read because it is a good one and it is an eye-opener onto what is happening in the world with what we are doing with humankind and the way that we need to wake up in order to save the planet. And saving the planet will be to save humankind. This is a big idea, but this is the main idea. Get Dirty by Gretchen McNeil, which is the second and last into the duology of Don't Get Mad. Few hours, I think, after the end of the first one, that we are getting to that one. I shouldn't have put a month between Don't Get Mad, so the first and the second one. I didn't have as much enjoyment, so it showed that the story slightly changed and the pace as well. I still enjoyed the whole plot of having a secret group, getting revenge for all of the bullies, and to try to break a wheel that doesn't work anymore and to change the system. The first big break that I read, Renegades by Marissa Meyer, because it was a 5 stars. Not necessarily because this is all about supervillains and superheroes, and I love them, but it was because the whole thing, the whole idea. We are following Nova, which is considered as a villain, an anarchist, because they are following the idea or the concept of one of the, I would say supervillain because of superpower, who anarchist, who in this world is not related to ours, who broke the will of the system, of the government. But sadly, the real villains, the gangs, jump into that opportunity since everything was down. There wasn't any system anymore, anything legal, anything to protect, and they made actually their way up. So it was a terrible time to live. In that time, Nova lost her family, so she's the only one, and she has been adopted, taken care of by her uncle, which is an anarchist. So few years, short years after that, she is a young adult, and she has a secret mission which will be to infiltrate the headquarters of the Renegades. This is the name of the good ones with superpowers, in order to break down the Renegades, because the system doesn't work how it is working right now either. I love her writing because this is my own writing, in the way that it's like if you see the movie right in front of your eyes, the way that it is told, and the description getting, because you need to have some description, you can so easily picture everything happening, the pace, the enthusiasm, the disappointment, the sadness, the anger for all the different characters and what is happening. Back into the thriller category with Under My Skin by Lisa Unger. I gave it 4 stars. A young widow who lost her husband, that's why she is a young widow. A year after the event, the case is still open. The husband has been killed, probably out of robbery, when he was jogging very early in the morning into a Central Park. She has a loss of memory of the time of the death of the husband. From the beginning, you feel that everyone can be guilty. Herself, her best friend, the husband of her best friend as well. They are always all together. I lost, personally, my excitement when the author bring another character. The way that she bring that character, and that she kept that character, and that she make it part of the end, for me was big disappointment. Wanderlost by Jen Malone. Young adult contemporary, very light and warming hearted, I could say it that way. I think I gave it 4 stars. Yes, I gave it 4 stars. We are following Aubrey. Her parents are not here, so obviously she's gonna have a party at her house. But her older sister Elizabeth wasn't aware as well, so she has a party, the cops are coming, and even if the older sister Elizabeth doesn't do anything compromising, she ends up being arrested, which ends up for her being trapped at home for the whole summer. She cannot fulfill her first engagement, which was to go to Europe for a few weeks, being a tour guide for some senior citizen throughout different countries. So desperately, she's asking her younger sister Aubrey to take her place, so taking her name, impersonating her. Her younger sister is doing it, not really excited about the whole thing. And stuff happens. I am originated from Europe, so it was easy to go back, even if few of the countries where they are going I haven't been yet. But it was the enjoyment of going back there, of the excitement of traveling, which I miss so much. It doesn't take much of the story itself, knowing what's going to happen in advance, because it's kind of a classic trope in that way. But it's really more for the excitement of traveling back into the world of the young adults, but in the adventure side with Pyramid Hunters, The Iron Tube by Peter Vegas. We are following Sam, who has lost his parents, and all the year he's living in a boarding school, and for the summer he's going to find his uncle, who is an archaeologist in Egypt. And he's supposed to wait for him at the airport, but the uncle is not here. Actually, he will understand pretty much quickly that the police is after his uncle, because there are some suspicions that the uncle had stolen some money from the funding for the diggings. Sam, the character, he is extremely slow to understand things and to use his knowledge, just because he is not in the mood. It was enjoyable enough for me to go for the second one and having an ending. It's more because everything, adventures like this, I really love. The Wicked Deep by Shea Ernshaw. Since the story happened in the June of month, in the month of June, We are onto the west coast, Pacific coast, in a small village where 200 years ago 3 sisters has been considered as being witch, trialed, and they have been sunk into the ocean, so died, but before they swear that they're gonna come back and take revenge. This is exactly what happened every year in the month of June, where they are gonna take the body of 3 teenagers of the village, and they, being into their bodies, they're gonna take as many male life possible and drown them into the ocean before they go back for the rest of the year. And so the story happened nowadays. We are following one of the characters. She doesn't really want to have anything to do with that whole celebration myth of those witches, the Swan sisters. She doesn't want to be taken her body by one of the sisters, which is a good point. And so yeah, we are discovering the story behind those 3 sisters. If you want to have something scary or frightening to read, it's not going to happen. It's very light. Well, not light, it's not happy, but it's yeah, there's nothing really scary. Going back into the past in London in the 17th century, because I forgot, I think it's a 1664, 1665 something, with the second installment of the Blackthorn Key with the Mark of the Plague, or Mark of the Plague by Kevin Sands. I read last year the first installment. I loved it, and this one I loved it as well. 5 stars. Yes, every second something happened, or more, every minute something happened. There is no dull moment, even if there isn't anything like action happening, that it's a quiet time. It's a fascinating and a gripping quiet time that you're gonna get into the story. So we are following, I think, a few months or maybe a year after the event of the first one. Still behind Christopher, which is still an orphan, still very close to his best friend Tom, son of the baker, and Christopher is still waiting for a new master from the Guild of Apothecary, because he wants to become an apothecary at some point, sometimes. Unfortunately, the plague had started to spread in London. A man who doesn't really claim to be an apothecary, but who has found apparently a cure for the plague, and he's willing to give it for free to the city. But there is something very suspicious behind that man. I love so much that series. I have already the 3rd installment, so I can't wait to jump and continue it. Fever Crumb by Philip Reeve, which is the first installment into a trilogy, the trilogy of Fever Crumb. We are in a dystopian world in London, and we are in a future. I don't know exactly, but I think maybe few centuries after our time. They are doing some archaeology, some digging, and it's interesting when you see it's digging on our world, our time. And every time that they are finding some technologies of our time, or even a slightly future one, they are trying to understand how it worked, the use. So they are not completely living in an archaic world, but I would say that you have some elements, futuristic element for that time, using the technology of the ancient. You kind of understand that what we are calling the Scriven, if I'm saying it correctly, they might have some superpower. It's not super clear. So the Scriven are ruling London, and they are not apparently doing it very good job at that. So at some point there gonna be some a war, and they're gonna be all killed by the population. In this nowadays we're following Fever Crumb, who is an orphan who has been found by what is called an engineer. So this is a kind of a group of monks who are study the ancient world and the machines of our world. She has 2 different eye colors, and apparently this is something that doesn't exist anymore in this time. So that differentiation put everyone on edge and think that she is a Scriven. Everyone, the whole population, will go against her and try to kill her, even if she is not a threat. Humankind doesn't really change in the past, the present, or the future, apparently. It was fascinating and gripping, more because I would say that I wanted to know what happened, and I still want to know what happened for the fall of our world. What happened? What made the change? I still want to know what exactly were the Scriven. Definitely gonna go into everything else, into the second installment. This is a lot of readings. You have a bit of all over the places, different kind of genre. This is where I'm going with my mood, even if lately it's a bit of thrillers. So probably the next wrap-up will be mainly thrillers. We'll see where I'm going with that for the next one. But in the meantime, thank you very much for still watching this video till the end, or for watching everything else. For the new subscribers, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and stick around because I will come back with other reviews.